So then a couple weeks go by, and then it comes out that Biden is just going to drop out the race, which for me, I didn't like that he dropped out the race with no explanation as to why. You could drop out if you want, but for 4 years ago, when people, busted their ass, there was tons of people that came to that endorsed you, that came to your defense, and they put you in office because Trump was so bad for the country, and COVID was happening, George Floyd was happening, there was all this, Black Lives Matter, all that other nonsense that was going on, and we looked at you as kind of the savior from this big old bad Trump, right? Put you in office 4 years ago, and then you decide to drop out the race in the 11th hour, and you leave no explanation as to what happened. There was no explanation, none at all from him. All right. His address was about, I'm just doing this because it's going to be the benefit of my part. His specific words were, I'm doing it because of the benefit. I'm going to benefit my party, or something like that. Some nonsense, some political answer that he gave that I got frustrated just watching the whole thing, because we still had no clear answer as to why you're dropping out. If you're so good for the country, why'd you drop out? Why? There was no specific answer. And then all of a sudden you endorse Harris. So Harris comes in, and now it's like, okay, I'm not going to, if you're the person that's going to run the country, that's fair. But let's be 100% honest. Let's keep it all the way factual. You wouldn't be here if you didn't get endorsed by the current president, who is Joe Biden. And when we asked you, when it was clearly asked of her, why'd he drop out? What was the problem? We got empty answers. There was no answer. You can go look it up, all the interviews, all the shit that she's trying not to curse too much, but all of the talking that she's done. She spent more time talking about Donald Trump and what he's doing bad than actually telling us why Biden dropped out in the first place. Her specific answer, whenever she got posed the question, was what? I think that history is going to prove that Joe Biden made a very noble decision, a real decision of leadership. This isn't me. This was her answer. This was the answer that she was giving. This was the answer that she was giving whenever she got posed the question of why Joe Biden dropped out. So if you're listening to this and you're like me, you're a critical thinker, you're like, I don't really know why he dropped out. If you're going to tell me, oh, it was because, or that he was a great leader before, which we all know. Again, hopefully I'm not sounding too disrespectful to Joe Biden, but we all know he's a great leader. You don't stay in politics for as long as he had. You don't, accomplish the things that he has accomplished without doing a lot of good in the world. But what we were trying to figure out is, if we voted you in 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and all of a sudden you just drop out, what was the reason you dropped out? There was never any real substantial reason as to why it happened. So it got critical thinkers like me thinking, okay, maybe Trump isn't that bad. Maybe there's something, there's some propaganda going on, and there's something that these Democrats are trying to do to make him look worse than he is. Or maybe there's something happening in that pop, because I grew up in Maryland, so I know how this stuff works. I know what propaganda is. In fact, I remember my first ever, I was in 7th grade, and I remember it was my first ever history class. And I remember we had a whole conversation about Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton and how, so that was kind of like my introduction to politics, where it's just like, just a bunch of dirty, a lot of dirty shit going on. Right. So, but anyway, so, what happens so what happens is now Biden drops out. He endorses Harris. And I remember, I'll never forget the tweet, because when Harris officially accepted the nomination, she tweeted out something, said, I accept it. And then the last line, I think it was like the last 2 words in her tweet, was beat Trump. It was nothing about what she's going to, it was everything she did was about beating Trump, and not actually telling us what makes her qualified. You're not going to just get the qualification because of your gender. You're not just going to get the qualification. That is so insulting to our intelligence, to think we're just going to put someone in office just because of the gender and her ethnicity. That's insulting. It just is. Now, granted, she's going to be looked at in a, she might get a favorable position. She might be very inspiring, which she is to me. She's still very inspiring. I respect her hustle. I respect her story. I respect the fact that she's even in the position. But at the same time, I need some substance, man. We need substance. We need some substance as to what's making you so much better than Trump. And we can't figure that out if all you're doing is talking about the things that he did and he didn't do. It just gets confused. It's like, okay, well, what makes you better, right? So what happened? Here's what's happened, and that's what's going on after the debate. So after the debate happens, and I believe Biden drops out, and everything's kind of confusing as to who's actually going to be leading the country. Then the assassination happens. The assassination happens, and that's when, for me, I was like, all right, look, the shit's going too far. The people out there, and again, I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, right on the outskirts of DC. So I've been around politics for a very, very long time. I grew up around it, right? Most of these people, if you ever had the opportunity to meet people who are in politics, contrary to what the way the media likes to portray them, for the most part, they're good people. They're good-hearted people. They want to see good things happen. I mean, for the most part, you don't get into a game as dirty as politics without necessarily wanting to create some policies, create some regulations, to create some rules, to create something that's going to be beneficial to the people. You don't get into the world in general without wanting to do some sort of positive service. So when it got to the point where dude is getting shot at, where people are trying to kill him, it's like, yo, this shit is going too far. It is going too far. And that's when things really turned, because this happened about a week before the RNC, the Republican National Convention. And you had a lot of his real strong, right supporters that really believe in Trump, like real diehard fans that really took it personal. And not only did they take it personal, but what started to happen was now the Democrats and the people on the left, they just didn't show enough empathy. They didn't hold up. They didn't say, okay, let's enough with the Hitler talk, enough with the fascism talk, enough with the attacks, enough with the, he's a threat to democracy, enough with all of the just painting him as if he's this person that's horrible. This is a horrible person, because what you do when you keep running with that narrative, the people who support him, the people who do love him, the people that, he has kids, he has a family, he at the end of the day, he is a human being. And if they got to sit back and listen to someone that they love get attacked on a daily basis, irresponsible journalists, irresponsible reporting, people who are just completely irresponsible in terms of how exactly they're talking about this man, that's when you cross the line. Think about a family member. Think about a family member that you love. Think about whether it's a grandfather, a father, or an uncle, whoever it is. Think of someone that you genuinely idolize, that you met, that is not what the world is making them out to be, that you had a conversation with, you had dinner with, that you genuinely love. All right, there's people like that Trump has in their life. For them to have to listen to shows like The View, for them to have to listen to people like Charlemagne the God that's calling him a fascist, for them to have to listen to what's the other one's name? The one I can't even stomach her now. Joy Reid. For people to have to listen to that bullshit, right? To that propaganda, just complete lie after lie after lie after lie, exaggeration after exaggeration. I mean, they're putting this thing, and I remember, and I'm going to read an angry comment